how are you, by the way, Mike Lubie Lubitz? I know you're going through just meticulous negotiations and all kinds of machinations about. That's a tough one, right? Buying a home and selling a home. Now, did it strike you all of a sudden? Hey, we're going to buy this house because you didn't have your house on the market until like yesterday. And then you had to do a lot of hustling during the Mike Mayo lunchbox hour to the point where we weren't sure if you were going to join us or not because we saw you outside. And it is true when you're on the phone, I'm not sure that it's always a matter, that involves a lot of serious details, but you are like a third base coach when you're on the phone talking to someone. When you walk outside and then you're doing all the gestures and everything. And I swear to God, I thought about stealing second while you were out there. I really did. Could have sworn I saw the sign.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubie Lubitz. So you say I look okay, Lubie?
Yes, sir.
Doesn't look any different than it did? Because there's a big difference to me in the way this thing is set up. And I can explain. And, it usually used to be, it always surprised me whenever during my various marriages, the wife would say, hey, I've got cleaning ladies coming over. And I'm like, yes, I know that because you've been cleaning for the last 3 days. What is that about women? That in anticipation of cleaning ladies arriving on the scene. Now you're going to pay these people whatever, like $100 or whatever to clean the house. I don't know. I'm sure it varies by the size of the house. And then you're going to stake them 20 a piece. So now you're out $140. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to spend $140 to have somebody come and do a little dusting and rearranging and everything, why would you clean in preparation for that? That would be a statement that the Mustang would make. I got to clean up today. The house is a mess. The cleaning ladies are coming tomorrow. It's like, well, if the cleaning ladies are coming tomorrow, let's trash the place. Let's go Joe Walsh.
Make get our money's worth.
Yeah. Let's pretend Led Zeppelin was staying overnight. When they were first getting started. Hey, Robert, did you really mean to throw that television set out the window? Well, he wasn't one of those guys. But you get the idea. I don't know. Is that common among women, Lubie? Do you find that in your experience? Now, you're on wife number 2, but
Yes.
and wife number 1, I don't know that did you even know her name, the first wife?
We were married longer than I've been married to Shirley, but by this point, we were already separated. Because that's true,
Yeah.
Shirley, and I have outlasted that marriage because right after year 1 is when things went to shit, and then by our second anniversary, it was like done. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I guess this is beating that one. Shirley, early on when we started to get the cleaning person, stressed out. So now I do the cleaning person cleaning because I don't want to hear it from her. My whole life.
Why are you cleaning at all? And
I don't know.
anticipation, as a cleaning person, a real pro is coming in there to do the job.
I
You're
don't
paying them.
dust or wipe. I'll straighten.
Yeah.
Like I
All
want
right.
I want the surfaces clean so they don't, because I feel like if there's stuff on areas, they may not clean it. And I don't want to we pay them a lot. So I don't want to give them a way out. I want them to do their job. So I'll straighten and put stuff away so they have all
Yeah.
the surfaces clean to clean.
Now,
She
also
will-
common. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say she'd have people do laundry and stuff. Like, I don't know. That weirds me out to have someone else do my laundry.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm weird.
Yeah, I don't need that. Forget about that. I don't want to pay you to hang around here and do my laundry.
That's my thing.
When all I have to do is throw the junk in the washing machine, turn it on, and go back and watch TV.
Exactly.
Laundromat, whatever, the washing machine and dryer happen to be right off this man cave situation that I have going here. But my one instruction is, and you can never find anything, right? I mean, you go in the shower, there's no soap. You sit down to take a dump, there's no toilet paper. Where to go? I have a roll of toilet paper that I don't even want to touch because they made a little flower at the end of it, like I was staying at the Ritz-Carlton or something. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't put a mint chocolate there. These are very nice people. I don't mean the cleaning people are fine, except you can never find anything of importance once they leave. You can't find, maybe you have some coffee cup that you use all the time. Where the fuck is it? I don't know. What did they do with it? Did they break it? Not admit it? Now, in this case, I have what I would consider to be somewhat sensitive equipment sitting around on this desk here where we do these broadcasts from. All right. Now we depend on this for our
Yes.
livelihood, obviously, and also we want to entertain everybody every day, and we feel obligated. I think we've been pretty professional about it, considering we could pretty much do what we want. But we're here every day at 7. We try to follow a certain structure. We do all of our other stuff, and so very important to me that this shit works.
Yes.
And I've noticed that even the slightest jogging and movement in the setup, I don't know how super sensitive all of the equipment is, but anything around a computer, and when you have various apparatus plugged into the computer, that's all depending on every connection being perfect. And wow, I mean, how many times have you had to reboot stuff or whatever because somebody punched a button? So my one instruction is don't touch a thing on this desk.
You're telling them to do less work. Like that's what you're doing. You're telling them to do
Right.
less.
Now, I come back home after my walk of life, and the cleaning people had left. I try to time that so I'm not here when they're buzzing around because it's a little bit annoying. And I come back home, and I turn on the fan that's sort of off to the side here.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, one of my lights that I'm using for this wonderful video stream is absolutely, I mean, I thought I shattered it. It's right in the path of the fan. And no matter how many times I look at whatever happened here, because it doesn't look like anything was moved, somehow this thing was moved into a position where it couldn't be put back in the same place. And so I had to rearrange a couple of things here. So if I look okay to you people, please let me know. I mean, is there like a spot shining on my forehead? Because my lights were professionally arranged by my buddy Mike Fernandez when he came here. And, his instructions to me usually were, don't touch a thing, just like my instructions were to the cleaning lady. But anyway, at least there's no dust on the computer at this point. But we had to rearrange a couple of things. I think it looks okay. So if it does, we'll go ahead and proceed. And we're kind of dealing today. Well, we don't have any guests lined up for you today. We tried to get a couple of people to come on the show. They all said, forget about it. We're not interested. No, they're usually pretty cooperative, but that's just the way that it worked out. Tuesday is kind of a day where it's usually just Lubie and me. And by the way, Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz here with the Defo Show. So these will kind of be a couple of hours of the random thoughts of a rambling mind. I didn't really steal that from Greg Cody. He has random thoughts of a cluttered mind. And these would be the random thoughts of a rambling mind today, because there are a lot of different things happening in the sporting world that are worthy of discussion, Lubie. Would you agree? Worthy of discussion. Now, the Monday night game, I guess, would be the focal point last night. It was the final game of, last week's football activity, and we're already 2 days away from what will be yet another litmus test in what has been a Cinderella season so far for the Miami Dolphins. And not to get carried away, Lubie, but would this not constitute the kiss of death?
Oh, jeez.
Kiss of death. All right. So I pick up my New York Post today. I'm reading it on the throne. And it says, big headline here. I guess I could pop it up here for you guys. Eagles and Dolphins racing up odds board.
Mhm.
Eagles and Dolphins racing up odds board. Can you see that?
Well, that's what I find interesting is coming into this year, people, they talked about the Packers, they talked about the Rams and the Bucks, but a lot of people had steam for the Eagles. I was like, okay, didn't the Dolphins do similar things to what the Eagles did? And Tua is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. So why are the Dolphins not getting that same steam? I get it, the AFC was tougher, but was it? Look at the Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos. Like you talked about, just because teams make moves and there's steam behind them does not mean that they're going to fulfill that steam.
And the Broncos, you could throw in the AFC
I said
West.
Broncos, Chargers,
And the Raiders
are all teams that are struggling right now. And again, it feels like they may struggle. They're with young coaches that really don't seem to know what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
Like I always thought, I was like, you can give the Eagles credit. Why not give the Dolphins too? Like they did the same things. They brought in receivers. They helped the offensive line for the young quarterback. They have a young coach like Sirianni.
And they had rallied at the end of last season with a Drek
strong
lineup, and they brought in a coach that would seem to be, I mean, I don't know that anybody couldn't say this without having to worry about qualifying it at all. Far more relatable than the previous one was, whether that's good for a team or not. I mean, look, you're talking about Staley with the Chargers, unproven commodity in my estimation. It was supposed to be a boy genius, out of the McVay tree. Yes. And so far, while the Chargers have done some dynamic things at different times, you're looking from the standpoint of sideline strategy and coaching, this guy's been a mess.
Horrendous.
Hackett in Denver has been horrible so far. Somehow he's lucked into a couple of wins, including that 11-10 beauty on Sunday night, which was, what a piece of garbage that was. Russell Wilson was horrible in that game. I can't help it. You guys should really check this out. We don't like to push you into listening to more of our stuff.
I don't mind
it. But some of this stuff is actually, this was one of the more interesting conversations I've had in my lifetime of doing this with Buzz Bissinger, who has a book out. And you know what? It's funny, too, because, you're sort of half out of it sometimes. And Lubie would tell me, okay, right after the show, we're going to interview Buzz Bissinger. I knew he did Friday Night Lights. I knew he was very popular. I knew he was also a journalist. He had done a lot of sports coverage also with Sports Illustrated. And he wrote for Vanity Fair. And he won, didn't he win a Pulitzer Prize for his investigative work on the Philadelphia court system? So, very interesting guy. I just saw an interview with him on TV because he's got a book out called The Mosquito Bowl. And it's about this, game that took place. It wasn't a mythical game. It was an actual game in World War II. As it turned out that a couple of units were just absolutely loaded with guys that were very accomplished football players. And it was like Army and, naval personnel or something. I don't know. It was different factions of the military. And they decided to play a football game together. And so Bissinger based his book around the people that were involved in the game.
Yeah.
And obviously, I guess the game itself, of which there are little in the way of records or recorded information. There's no video of this game or anything along those lines. People didn't have cell phones in World War II. Anyway, we're talking to Bissinger, and I always try to find something about a guy that we can get a conversation going. I knew he was a crossover, guy into sports and had a deep-rooted interest in sports as well. So, we were talking about Seattle, where he's from. Well, not where he's from, but he lives outside of Seattle in some rural area. And he got off on talking about Russell Wilson, about how horrible he is.
Sucks. He's like, he's so done. They're going to realize that was the stupidest move. It was funny. I was like, what?
They just gave this guy, 5 years at $400 million.
I don't know.
And he has looked awful. He did finally orchestrate what turned out to be a game-winning touchdown drive late in the ball game, but it was hardly the kind of stuff that you're thinking, wow, this guy's going to take us to the top. But Hackett, during the course of that ball game, makes any number of questionable decisions. As and you even have to question how he's using Russell Wilson. Although could they possibly have paid Wilson, even though he's somewhat of a shot fighter, at what he was most dangerous with, which was taking off once he had finished off one of those scrambles, and then he finds some running lane or throw a deep ball. He does none of that with the Denver Broncos. They have a very pedestrian-looking offense with Russell Wilson at the helm. So what do you need that for? You could have gotten the same thing out of Cooper Rush, which the Dallas Cowboys did last night against the New York Giants. Not a bad job by a backup, you would have to say, for a guy that I really knew nothing about. Did you know anything about Cooper Rush before you saw him go in there for Dak?
Oh, last year. He's played for them before, and he's horrendous. That's what I knew.
Yeah. He actually was on the Giants practice squad. Came back to defeat them last night, and looked very polished in the second half of that ball game. He didn't look bad in the first half either, considering the circumstances. And the New York Giants, who is this? Is that really their number one pick? Or one of their number one picks?
He's a big
guy, Evan Neal. My God.
Yama.
He was horrendous. If anybody cost the Giants that game last night, it was Evan Neal, who was playing right tackle. Does he start at right tackle, or did he come in there because of an injury? I didn't see the very beginning of the game.
I mean, if you're dropping guys top 10, look, they still play Austin Jackson. It's been 30 years, and he's horrendous because he was a first-round pick. You put the guy top 10, you want to play him.
Seventh pick overall, you say, for this Evan Neal?
Yeah, he was big time.
Oh, my God. I mean, you could have put John Blutarski out there, and he could have done a better job against, what was a raging bunch of edge rushers that were just pummeling this poor kid. I mean, he never. I don't think he laid a body on anyone the entire game, except maybe at the end, where he was on top of a pile or something. Other than that, he never touched anybody except to hold. And it was just a clear path. I mean, you talk about unabated to the quarterback. That was all night long for the Dallas Cowboys, and so it was tough to get a read on whether Dayball's offense was any good. This Galladay that they got for $8 zillion is horrendous. He was catching last week that he only had 2 plays. I think he was only in for 2 plays or made 2 catches, one or the other, but had very limited playing time. And when they throw him the ball, he drops it every time. Terrible. I mean, I remember that move being criticized as being very strange by the Giants, laying out all that money for Galladay, the wide receiver. And boy, that looked like it looms as a rather large franchise-crushing mistake. And Daniel Jones, they still haven't extended his contract. He's playing under the final year of his rookie contract. I don't know that they bring this guy back, do they, Daniel Jones? You didn't like him. I did a little bit because I got duped into watching the highlight film. Mel Kiper was salivating over the kid. And everybody looks good. I mean, it's kind of like your, wedding pictures. It all looks like love, joy, and happiness.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They don't know that right after you had a fight and didn't speak to each other and ended up staying in another hotel on your wedding night. Because the pictures make it look like it's a Cinderella story, don't they?
100%.
Is this true of everybody, or is it just me?
I mean, we got along fine, but yes, I can see it going that way. It's annoying as
Oh,
hell.
but you were Svengali'd. I mean, it was worse than
I
Mayo and
Sarni. I
Yeah.
wasn't fighting. I was like, whatever, man. Whatever she wants to do. I don't give a shit. We spent so much money and time on this wedding.
You were so, I mean, they're so out of touch with the people that came out there to wish you well, Lubie. I don't think I even saw you for like an hour and a half after the ceremony, and we almost got booted out of the ceremony for heckling. Which, sorry, Lubie. I didn't really treat you like
You weren't doing anything bad. It wasn't like the first one where the lady talked
young
about
son and protege. I look at you as. Yes.
Sure. Look, Daniel Jones doesn't suck. I just don't know what to do with him. Like,
he had his moments last night where he acquitted himself. All right, he was under immense pressure though because it is Evan Neal.
Yep.
I don't know what the rest of the Giants' offensive line was doing, but it wasn't much because they didn't really get anything going for Saquon Barkley. He did have a 36-yard touchdown run in the game. That was nice.
That was nice.
And he appears to be back at full strength, but he really wasn't getting much out of the offensive line's blocking schemes. And Daniel Jones was under immense pressure all night long. And if you go back and watch that game, it seems like every play went through Evan Neal. Literally, right through Evan Neal.
Through him.
That might be the worst 2-0 team I've ever seen in the history of the National Football League. The Giants fans were euphoric. They'd won a couple of games. They were in this one with a chance, but really, we're outplayed. I thought almost from the onset of the game. They were in the lead at one time, 13-6, but and they managed to limit the Dallas Cowboys. So we're getting nothing but field goal tries. Didn't get much out of a couple of deep penetrations. Didn't get much out of that, right? No orgasm, no touchdown, and they finally just wore down. I mean, the Giants' defense was holding on pretty capably throughout most of the ball game until we got to about midway through the third quarter, through the middle part of the fourth quarter, and then they just looked like they were worn out. Couldn't keep pace, and the Giants' offense wasn't capable of answering back. So 23-16 was the final there, as the Dallas Cowboys go on the road and beat the New York Giants. And I didn't realize this. Is this true? It seems unfathomable, Lubie. Unfathomable. Okay. They put a stat up during the game that no team has repeated as NFC Eastern Division champions. Now, there are only 4 teams in the division. You would figure one team would be good for a couple of years in a row, no?
Yeah.
No team has repeated as champions. They haven't had a repeat winner in the division championship since, I guess, what was it, 17 years? 17 years.
Geez,
how is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, the division has sucked for a decade, but still.
No repeat winner in 17 years. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's weird.
Especially the Cowboys have always been, America's team. You would figure that they might have won. I found that to be, I mean, I would have said false on that if you asked me, but I could swear they put that up as a graphic. Now, the rest of it, too, I mean, talking about the game, what on earth was ESPN thinking? That they get nothing out of having Joe Buck and Troy Aikman as their 2 announcers. They are as nondescript as any team they put in there since, the heyday of Monday Night Football. Absolutely no differential whatsoever in their broadcast and any other broadcast that you would get out of 2 guys that were doing a game. Are they professional about it? Yeah. Are they really good at it? I don't know because Troy Aikman for me, nice enough guy. Seems like I don't know. He never, as they say on the old Neil Rogers show, they never stole a freight train. This guy, um, and just hasn't really been immersed. Has he been immersed in any controversy? People thought he was gay at one point. Is that does that constitute controversy about a person?
Not
People
to
start
me.
speculating about his sexual preferences, and I don't know that any of that is true or even worth talking
Yeah.
about. Seems like a good guy. If I ran into Troy Aikman, I would think very worthy of a dose of respect. No,
Yeah.
but as an announcer, he's never said anything. And if you're a color analyst and you're making like $20 million a game,
Crazy.
should you not notice things that any fan can clearly see? There's a play in the game where Daniel Jones is rolling out. It's late in the ball game. He's rolling to his left. There's a flag early in the play, so you know it's going to be a holding call because he's been scrambling around. So now no matter what he does, this play is coming back. So now he's about to take a sack, which is even worse. And as he's going down, he lobs the ball. I don't know if you remember the old combat series with Vic Morrow was, a television series. It was excellent. War series. There were a couple of them out at the time, and Morrow was fantastic as a sergeant, a hard-nosed sergeant with his men taking care of him. And they used to lob these hand grenades like in a weird fashion as they were like rolling to the ground there, as they were trying to take over a farmhouse full of Jerry's, as they called them in the show. The German soldiers that were there were always having just an amazing vantage point in terms of being able to just wipe out the entire unit. Somebody, what was it, Little John? He was always the guy that had to like walk in there with a white flag, and to get shot at. Anyway, he throws Jones as he's going to the ground. What looked like he was lobbing a hand grenade into this house full of Jerry's on the old combat series. And it's clearly the ball doesn't get anywhere near the line of scrimmage. There's nobody in the area there. Clearly intentional grounding. And you're saying to yourself, wow, if you could exacerbate this play as a disaster, that would be the one way to do it. So now what are you waiting for in terms of your color analysis there on the ball game? You would at least think that Troy Aikman might have made reference to the fact that, there's a really dumb move. He just is guilty. He's now guilty of intentional grounding, which in that situation, I think it was a third down play. At least with the holding call, they would have had one more shot at it.
Yep.
Instead, they not only lose the yardage, but they lose the down.
Yep.
So this is a catastrophe of just absolutely doing the worst possible thing that you could do in that spot. And if you're talking about whether Jones is the quarterback or not, now I don't know. Do I blame him for trying to get rid of the ball? Maybe not. But you couldn't have made a dumber, more punitive play for the Giants than to be guilty of intentional grounding on that particular play. They're going to lose the down, and the penalty's going to be declined anyway if he gets sacked. So he has to do something, but couldn't have been any worse. And Aikman makes no reference to it, and neither does Joe Buck. Didn't notice this either. And you're looking at it going, wow, if that's not intentional grounding, if it doesn't get called here, it should never be called ever again.
Yep.
And then after the fact, as they're talking about, well, there's a holding call here. They go, oh. I guess we didn't see that. And you're thinking, how could these guys be, making this be worthy of this kind of capital, and they don't see the simplest thing in the game? That any jerk, my dog, Skippy, was saying, grounding. And they don't notice that. And that was a significant aspect of that particular play, that on top of the fact that it was going to be negatory anyway, it got worse because of what this quarterback did, that they've been criticizing all night or questioning whether or not he's the man.
Look, Julian brought up, and I was talking to you about it, and we've talked about it a lot. That's why people like the Manning cast. And I don't know if they're being directed to do this, but they do that the entire game. Like Peyton will bring up what he did during games, and he will ask Eli, what did you do during games? And when someone does something, they will both get frustrated beyond belief, like a fan, but with experience, going, what? And it actually makes me feel validated as a fan. Whenever I'm bitching, and they're like, well, you don't know. Well, they know. And they're saying the same stuff I've said for years. Like, what the hell are they doing? Why didn't they take a timeout? Like, it's so much more entertaining and interesting. Now, the only reason they get bailed out is because I think the Mannings only want to do like 8 games. The Mannings want to do a whole season. There'd be zero reason to ever watch that broadcast. ever. Like I would never.
There's zero reason to think that they've made any great upgrade by bringing Joe Buck and Troy Aikman into the fold here. It's no different. I don't even think it's as good of a two-man booth as you could get if you were listening to like maybe the third string team on some other network. It's really horrible. I mean,
That's funny.
no, I mean, to miss that, you just can't miss that and make no comment about it and then be stunned that there's also a grounding call in the play. You can't watch that happen and not at least think, wow, isn't that intentional grounding, even if they don't call it.
Well, and as a quarterback, Aikman, I would love to hear, okay, why would a quarterback be that stupid? Defend him, explain it, try and make it make sense.
He had no chance to get this ball to the line of scrimmage. And he was outside the pocket. But no chance to get this ball to the line of scrimmage if he lets it go. Now, if he takes the sack, he's in worse shape. But that was a play where, and like you were talking about, I think you make a good point, Lubie, which is hard for me to say, but it's true. And lately, people have been noticing that you've been right about a few things, which is, I mean, you were right about the Canes, and you were right about Florida State before the season started. These were things that you asserted before the year started, that the Canes fans were mashugana out of their mind that the Canes were all of a sudden going to be great.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, it's a great
Well, and Tony, I love Tony. He's very optimistic. There's nothing wrong with that. Always look at the bright side of life. I mean, it really is.
Like show tunes.
Yeah, Monty Python time, man. Always look at the bright. Look, it's better to look at the bright side of life than it is to always be miserable. Yeah. I would have to contend that, unless you just enjoy being miserable, which a lot of people do. I don't.
No.
I always try to find the good in things or whatever. I mean, I know Tony thinks I'm overwhelmingly cynical. That's not true. I'm always looking for the good in things. Yes. Always. I always want to see the good in things. But just like Troy Aikman is paid to see certain things that happen in a football game, we get paid to also observe the negative. Yes. Right? I mean, you have to have an opinion on stuff. And, I feel like that's kind of what we're doing here. We're just, guiding people to a place that, and there's nothing better in connecting with an audience than to have the people thinking, aha, I thought that just the other day. In fact, Defo, you stole that idea from me, which is entirely possible if you express it to me privately.
It's happened quite often.
Hey, what idea is your own there, Defo? I don't know. This one certainly, I don't know. Is it one of them? I understand. Eagles and Dolphins racing up odds board. Okay. I meant to get to this because I think it's a little bit troubling here. Okay. If you've been impressed with the Philadelphia Eagles so far, this is what this gentleman says. This is written by a guy named Jackson Coward. C. Jackson Coward. Okay. So one of those guys with a very sophisticated, either a first name that he hates or he just likes the sound of C. Jackson Coward. It sounds like some assemblyman from, Tennessee or something.
Sounds like a Harvard professor.
Yeah. Somebody that's pro-life and, is wearing a MAGA hat as he goes to collect his paycheck for being a U.S. representative. If you've been impressed with the Philadelphia Eagles so far, you ought to be a fan of what the Dolphins are building in their first year under new coach Mike McDaniel. Is this too much euphoria, too much optimism right away? Does it bother you?
Oh, for sure.
A little bit. The former 49ers coordinator, was he the offensive coordinator? I don't think that was his official title, was he? Oh, he was. Okay.
He was 1 year offensive coordinator. Yes.
Because he was just kind of like an assistant offensive consulting schmink.
They call him the run game coordinator, but last year he was the official offensive coordinator.
Oh, he was? Okay.
It was under Kyle Shanahan, so people assumed that Shanahan was calling the plays. But he was doing something.
Shanahan has to rue today that he re-signed Garoppolo, even though, I mean, it's one thing. It's one thing to see your dream quarterback, unfortunately get injured, but I think they bailed him out of a spot because I don't think it was going that well. They may have ended up with a guy that really is never going to do anything special as a pro, right? Another Marcus Mariota or something, where maybe you see flashes here and there, but in the long run, it just doesn't work this game on a professional level. The former 49ers coordinator has reinvented this offense around Tua, who leads the league in quarterback rating with an 82.8 quarterback rating. How about that?
Yep.
In his own MVP campaign. Oh, my God. Think about that. Now, he's already singled out Tua as the number one quarterback in the league.
Relax.
Waging an MVP campaign.
my God. Let's just get to top 15 and maybe top 10.
Okay.
There first.
So we're 2 sentences into this thing, and we're in deep. All right.
He's stressing me out.
In terms of, maybe overreacting a little bit to the first couple of weeks of the season. And has quelled concerns about his arm strength after a bevy of deep shots through the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Miami's defense has also stood tall, frustrating Josh Allen for 4 quarters on the heels of shutting down Lamar Jackson and company late in week 2 in a win.
It's true.
I don't know that I would put shutting down Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson in the same sentence.
In the fourth quarter,
Put that off again.
They stalled them. The defense actually did a really good job in the fourth quarter. So he said late.
They have risen to the occasion when needed, okay?
Yes,
they played the big points well. Let's put it that way. If you're talking about tennis, and they're down match point, they're able to come out of that.
Yep.
Yeah. The Dolphins are for real.
Why do they go all the way?
3 weeks into the season.
Why do they do that?
I want to believe this. I really do.
But why can't?
And they're in. Go ahead, Louis.
You keep going. I'm sorry.
Here's the last sentence of this thing, and take your comment here on this, because this kind of hit me a little bit, like maybe it was a bad omen that this was being written about the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are for real, and they're in sole possession of first place in the AFC after entering the year as 40-1 title long shots. That price was a steal. And this one is a relative bargain, too. At 16-1, they're saying the Dolphins are a bargain.
Yeah.
To win the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 57. And here's Rihanna at halftime. Miami Dolphins have this one in the bag already. So the flowers are in the punch, I would imagine, at most parties, as the Dolphins are running away with Super Bowl. Is it 57 coming up this year? Is it already 57? I don't know. Something like that. I don't get the Roman numerals anymore. That's one of the things goes right out the window, like calculus and Pythagorean theorem. You see this kid, by the way, this high school kid that got 108 straight calculus answers right? Do you think he had that bogus Fugazi method that I knew about getting the answers in calculus situations? Did he show no work? Because it was some kind of standard test. I don't know if you had to show the work. I think you just had to come up with the answer.
57, so you got that right. It is 57. So good job by you.
57 coming up? Well, anyway, this guy's got a ring around the Dolphins at 16-1, being a bargain to win the Super Bowl. I mean, would you take any less than that? Doesn't it seem a little far-fetched still? The Bills lost this game, and they're 2-1. But do you not see the Bills eventually emerging?
Oh, yeah.
The way they've played as the AFC Eastern Division title holders. So I don't even know that they win the division, much less go on and win how many playoff games, if they come in as a wild card. So you're talking about what? Winning 3 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl and then winning a 4th one. 16-1. What are the odds of that, Louis?
I don't know the odds. I just love that we have to be all in. Either all in on the bad or all in on the good. I'm the one, or we actually, you were high on that felt, okay, the Dolphins are definitely better than people are thinking.
I did believe that, and I still believe that.
I agree with that. They have caliber team. When people are saying they were the 8th to 10th, I was like, nah, they're probably more 6th to 8th. So maybe they are like the Heat, where they get to 4th through 6th. Maybe they are better than the Chargers, who seem to have their coach sucks. Actually, I think they have the talent. I don't like Staley at all, and I don't like Hackett at all. So I think
Staley looks like he's miscast in this job.
Oh, he doesn't know what
like
he's doing.
Maybe he's one of these offensive guru geniuses, but he doesn't look like a head coach. He just doesn't.
Nah, he's just not good.
I don't know. You have to look like the prototype guy, like you just had glass for breakfast, but Dan Campbell style. But he just, he hasn't impressed me with the maneuvers he's made. And I didn't think, when I saw they got trounced by the Jaguars, 38-10 last week, the Chargers, I thought, well, Herbert must not have played, and they must have some real schmenk as a backup. But Herbert played in the game, and it looked like he played the entire ball game. He threw like 45 passes with busted rib cartilage.
Yeah.
How do you break rib cartilage, by the way?
I don't know. In football,
torn cartilage is one thing, but how do you have like broken rib cartilage? Is that even a medical term? I mean, I'm not Dr. James Andrews or anything, or Frank Jobe, but it seems to me that that's odd medical terminology for, even somebody who's trying to describe a football injury as a member of the sporting media. Remember when we all had to be doctors all of a sudden, and everybody knew, oh, yeah, well, that's an 8-week injury. We don't know shit about it. Trust me, people. Nothing. No more than you do. That's for sure.
So anyways, articles like this freak me out because, look, I always said Tua was better than people said, and he's not a 20th quarterback. I said if he had talent, he'd be a top 15, maybe top 10. and that's what he's looking like. Cool. But you don't have to go the other way and say he's the best. Like, I mean, let's slow down. Like, let's.
Yeah, he hasn't been. I mean, he's been very good, but he hasn't been overwhelmingly,
No.
I mean, close to perfection
No.
by any stretch. I mean, and look, the Dolphins, to their credit, and this is what you have to do in the National Football League. This is going to sound like a real cliche. This is how you win ball games, but they literally are manufacturing ways to win a different style each game. We know they have a dynamic offense potentially, but it's really only been in evidence for one quarter.
Yeah.
At that level, I mean, and what happened to the Ravens defense in that quarter is, we'll have to ask the people at DraftKings, as they were having a meeting with Roger Goodell. Listen, we can't have these guys win. There's a lot of money on the Ravens. When is that investigation going to come out? Never mind Brett Favre and this money he took from the Mississippi poor to build a volleyball court for his daughter at Mississippi State. Wherever that was, Southern Miss.
Or Southern Miss, yeah.
Which he's going to be on for 4 years, but the building is going to be there forever. A nice job there. Is Brett guilty in this thing? What do you think? It looks kind of fishy, doesn't it?
Massively guilty. That's what's funny is that it's going under
the governor is telling him, I don't want to go to prison, Brett, so quit bugging me. They have texts, to this effect. This is the thing. Lefty told me that a long time ago when I got in a jackpot. And I remember Lefty, who was, if you needed money, you might be able to go to Lefty. He might be able to arrange it for you. If you had to make a bet, you might be able to go to Lefty. He might be able to get that down for you. And he was the nicest guy. He held court in the Turf Club restaurant. Not the Turf Club, but the Clubhouse restaurant at Calder Racecourse. Was always there. Real good guy. That was the guy we had the incident with Alonzo Mourning, where Alonzo Mourning signed a basketball for us. Classic story. I was doing his show. And in fact, it was the one that involved the jackpot with a Native American tribe many years ago. And anyway, so we're doing a show. We did a really nice job on the show. It was one of the better shows that I've ever been a part of as a entrepreneurial type producer that I've been my entire life. And anyway, so Lefty, he finds out we're having Alonzo Mourning as a guest on the show. We used to tape like 3 shows, I think, at a time, 2 or 3. I think we did at least 2. And so we always had like 1 or 2 fairly reasonably, A-list to, B-list guests. Right? We had some pretty good people come out there. And Alonzo Mourning was always very good about promoting his charity, Zoe's Summer Groove. And he would do any amount of interviews and work. I mean, he was really great about that. He did give his time to that aspect of it. But, at the time was known as a guy that wasn't exactly, Mr. Gregarious, right?
Friendly.
He always had the scowl on his face, even when he came to the heat, even, with his accomplishments here.
Yep.
And, he just didn't seem like the kind of guy that you want to, bug for an interview. I mean, an autograph when he's coming in to do you a favor.
Oh.
All right. Now, most of these guys, after a television shoot, there's a little downtime after. They'll hang around. If somebody asks for an autograph or a picture, they're more than accommodating. And we routinely took pictures with our guests there for promotional purposes, which they were always very gracious to do and didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. So we asked Zoe if he, and I'm the last guy, this, Lubie. I don't go running around trying to get guys to sign anything, or I'm not hovering over these guys. As soon as they leave, I'm like, thank God he's gone. I've had my share of friends in the sporting world for sure, but Zoe, I knew very, just strictly from doing a couple of interviews and doing some heat coverage at the time. And anyway, so we have to present him with this basketball for Lefty, who I don't know if Polyman was into him for anything, but I always wanted to be on his good side. It seemed very favorable to have Lefty consider you a friend or an ally, in case you got into some kind of jackpot, in which case he might be able to dispense someone who could solve the problem for you with one phone call. Don't be calling DeForest anymore, okay? I don't want to hear anything bad about you.
Exactly.
Don't start your car. It's always good to know mafia guys for some reason, or guys that seem to be connected. You never knew if they really were connected, but yeah, they were connected. Anyway, Lefty was a very nice guy. So we wanted to give him this autograph ball. He had asked us to get an autographed basketball from Alonzo Mourning when he found out he was going to be on the show. So we buy a basketball, professional ball. Zoe, we get the marker, and Zoe's ready to sign it, right? We very meekly, came up to Zoe and said, Alonzo, would you mind signing a basketball? Our friend, we made up a story. He was in the hospital, cancer and chemotherapy had failed, and it looked like he maybe had a day or two left to live.
Oh,
So, if that. In fact, we said as soon as you sign this ball, we're putting it in a car and it's going straight to like Holy Cross. All right. So he writes on it and he says, "Well, who's it for?" And we said, "Lefty." So we write, he writes to Lefty, all the best, Alonzo Mourning. Very nice. Give Lefty the basketball. He wasn't in the hospital. And he looks at us and goes, "No, it wasn't for me. It's for my nephew."
Why would you know that?
How would we know that? But when you're talking to guys that are connected, they assume that you knew everything that, they didn't communicate to you clearly in the first place. Like that the juice is still running. What ain't it still running? You've been in jail for 15 years. What are you talking about? You're telling me that 300 is now 13,000? You got to be kidding me. I'm responsible? So we actually, that was a classic, though. We actually went to a tattoo removal parlor.
Oh, my God.
And had two Lefty exhumed from the ball. So it was like a little, there was a little silver mess there, but it basically said, all the best, Alonzo Mourning. Kind of crazy. I mean, the jackpots that you get into. But yeah, I've never really been a jack sniffer.
No.
In that sense, I'm not, inclined to go out there and get autographs. And I forget now why I brought all of this up.
I don't know.
It's not a good thing.
I've never heard that story. I've heard almost all your stories about 1,000 times. I've never heard that one.
I can imagine how we felt after we were so proud we got this ball signed by Alonzo Mourning.
That's actually impressive because Zoe's one that I grew up idolizing. So he was one of the first that when I met him, I was like a little nervous, and he was mean. Like I didn't even go near. I didn't ask. I think the girls took pictures, so I guess I got a picture. But like,
he had that scowl. I mean, he just he
barely talked.
Admitted like a stay away from me kind of position, kind of like Belichick at a press conference. Do you really want to be the next guy to ask a question after he's blown off the first 6 reporters with one-word answers and answers like, "What do you think?"
I'm not that guy. I hate that. That's why there are certain guys we make fun of because they make sure they get in there no matter what. Look, there's plenty of video of me interviewing people because I've done it. I'll throw a question out there, but I'm not going to be the guy. Like I always think you can tell if a guy had a bad day. So to be Jim Gray is annoying to me. I would never want to be that guy.
Oh, but I mean that's his game, supposedly.
I know,
no matter what the circumstances, no matter how ugly he's going to ask the question, that pisses you off all the more. Unbelievable.
It's like make the guy laugh. Like that's why the stuff you do is great. Like even if they're in a bad mood, like make them laugh. Then maybe it'll help everyone else. Like let's be a team here. Like don't be the jerk off that pisses him off. It's like, you know what, Jim? Screw you. And he like ends it. And the other 6 reporters who have a deadline now get nothing because you're a selfish ass.
Well, and there are certain times that you still don't get anything out of the guy.
Oh yeah.
Which but if you're going to do a sports interview, you would like to find out or have the conversation at least be somewhat entertaining. Where we took a lot of shit for our Mike Norvell interview because he didn't say anything, but that's how Mike Norvell is. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, you know what? I got caught up in the Norvell enthusiasm. I started to believe. I mean, this guy might as well have been Joel Osteen. He could have been Jimmy Swaggart. He could have been any of the TV evangelists, going all the way back to Ernest Angley, because what he was selling was become a part of the Seminole family. And this is what we do here. And it's great when you're winning. I mean, it really looks good when you're winning. When you're losing, it doesn't look so hot. That's for sure.
The first 2 years, people didn't like him because he had the same vibe. Now, all of a sudden, people love him. Same vibe. Like, he's passionate. He's a lot of energy. He's like a child in that regard. Yeah. And he is insistent and persistent. I saw him after the game this weekend. ACC Network, I guess it was a spotlight game.
He's all in as a goodie, kind of
same shit. He said the same stuff that he said to us.
Yeah,
listen to everything because at least he talks. At least look, we've had a lot worse. Coaches a lot of time. Yep.
Well, you won't be seeing Mario, checking in, unfortunately, because you've been dodged by the PR people when it comes to a Mario Cristobal interview, which you'd think would be the most automatic, instantaneous thing especially with a guy that you knew, from covering the team in the past, where they go, yeah, okay, no problem, man. When do you want Mario on the show? The Gator thing is a whole nother matter there because they've always been sort of a
Ever. We've never had one Gator coach
different
ever.
organization. Yeah.
And it's not that I have it for lack of trying. Believe me, Defo makes fun of me. I try.
Yeah.
That's why we got Mick on, because Mick became really nice and would come on. They're coaches. I can't even get to the person. Like, I usually get to the first person and then get passed on. I never get to the second person with the Gators. They're fucking weird about it, and I don't get it.
Is anybody speaking, though, from the University of Miami? Because, I was thinking the way to kind of circumvent the whole, non-communication with the coaching staff. Jason Taylor's there on the sidelines. I don't know if he's an official coach or just helping them out, but he's on the sidelines for games. So, and we know that he's a fan of the show. And I was thinking, well, could we call Jason Taylor and see if he wants to come on and talk about Hurricane football? But I get the feeling that assistants would be very reluctant to go and step out in front of Mario Cristobal, which perhaps is the right thing to do. But if Cristobal is not going to say anything to anybody outside of these press conferences, then, I think that's a big mistake. I really do. I believe this. I know. I think it hurt Randy Shannon that he was not much of a communicator. Now, Mario is a delightful guy and everybody loves him.
Yeah.
There's nobody that says, wow, what a prick that Mario Cristobal is. He's not. He's a good guy. He always represented good things.
Yep.
I don't know why, if you took over a spot like this, I mean, think back to how Howard Schnellenberger got this whole ball rolling.
Oh, good.
He couldn't wait. There was not a microphone he wouldn't grab. I mean, he went Muhammad Ali on this thing, like Angelo Dundee. I mean, we want to be in front of you people, right? It's only advantageous to us. You would have to think that most people would realize that. I mean, it's one thing if you're Nick Saban, but even he, does his obligatory stuff and consents to do a lot of interviews. Now, he only does them, obviously with great purpose, which is to have like a hand-picked guy like Tom Rinaldi, our good friend, come in there and not say anything that he doesn't want. Rinaldi's questions, he probably has to submit a sheet, and they're probably more scrutinized than Donald Trump's were.
100%.
Whenever the Trumpster would consent to, do a sit-down interview and tell people how great he was and how smart he was. Which doesn't appear really to be the case when you look at all these things that he fucked up. I mean, this new guy, have you seen this? This guy that was tracking the telephone calls to the White House and during the January 6th. I mean, as this whole thing is taking place, most people are assuming this might have been Meadows, but that these calls are coming from the White House or to the White House, one way or the other, to the guys that are involved in the riot.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
And then they have the balls to still deny. Oh, we live in such a weird.
I mean, the conspiracy is running a lot deeper. And,
I
had a couple of guys on last night that were doing a documentary about Roger Stone, and Stone's on there just basically saying, hey, fuck the voters. Let's get into the violence.
Yeah, that's what Trump said. I'm so annoyed that we live in this world that it's
amazing.
You versus me, and we can't just look. Maybe Nixon at the end. It was on Nixon, but eventually the Republicans were like, okay, Nixon. Like, at some point, you just tap out and say, okay.
Hey,
like,
Dick, didn't work. Whatever you were trying to pull there at Watergate was a mistake.
You're not
being right. You had the thing won anyway, you fool.
Unbelievable. Like, Trump honestly may have won before he lost his fucking mind. Like, you can vote for whoever you want, but at some point you're allowed to say, okay, my guy's alone.
I can't believe that was Evan Neal out there. I thought it was like Curly Neal.
He was a beast. He was an All-American. No, he was a beast.
Wow, he could not make a block as a pro. That seems impossible because one thing about Nick Saban, his players do appear to be groomed to be professionals, and we would have said no way with quarterbacks. But if you look at it, he had both Jalen Hurts and Tua on his roster at the same time.
Yep.
Wasn't known as a guy that developed quarterbacks, and I don't know. I mean, Tua looked far more polished and prepared to be a pro quarterback than Jalen Hurts did. Although you could look at what Hurts has done so far this year with the Philadelphia Eagles, and he is vastly improved over anything. It wasn't like he was horrible. He was showing signs last year of maybe becoming a very competent quarterback that could lead a pro team to some kind of level of success. But he's really doing it this year, and Tua to an even greater extent so far. Although I think Tua has been more error-prone than Jalen Hurts has been with the Philadelphia Eagles. Who have they faced any real serious challenges yet? Because the Dolphins have.
I don't know. The Eagles have been dominant. I don't know if they played anyone really good yet.
Yeah. I think they've been mostly against crapola teams. All right, here's a stat for you, Lubie. You want this one?
Ready.
Okay. Raiders 0-3. Since there are 109 teams that have begun the season 0-3 since a certain time. I didn't write that down. Probably should have. 109 teams, 0-3 start. Only one, the 2018 Texans, has made it to the postseason after starting 0-3. Now, some of that is askew because last year was the first year of the 17-game season, so 0-3 is not quite as prohibitive. You still have 14 games to go to turn this around, and so what? You're probably thinking 10-4 the rest of the way. After an 0-3 start, though, that's asking a lot, is it not? To then project the team out that started 0-3 to go 10-4 the rest of the way. And this is another reason why I thought, last year had to be a stepping stone for the Dolphins. But a lousy roster and a coach that had nothing but acrimony and a big divide between himself, his players, and the front office. He's there in the middle. The front office people hate Brian Flores, and the players don't care for him either. And his staff is always, in a state of fear, were they not? Because he was whacking offensive coordinators
every year,
like he was Donald Trump on The Apprentice, right? Unbelievable, yeah? Every day he's walking into somebody's office. Hey, Joe, guess what? You're fired. We didn't even know what his offense was. At least we know with McDaniel. Okay, there are certain components to this offense that sort of make sense. Do they not?
Yes.
You can see what he's trying to do to some level. Unless it were Troy Aikman, in which case you couldn't see the simplest play last night. Oh, there's a grounding call in there, too. Okay, Troy.
It's so funny how some people really love that tandem, and then we talk about that tandem.
But honestly, not that they're unprofessional, like I said, but nothing special. Did they provide you with some insight and overwhelming enjoyment in the way they call the game? I don't think it's really much different than anybody else. It wouldn't matter who you were listening to.
What's funny is when they left and they made Burkhardt and Olsen the number one team. I don't know about others, but I was like, what, really? Like, these two people that everyone knows, for those two. I've now caught, I think, all the Burkhardt Olsen games. They're way better.
Way better, yeah.
Fucking Aikman.
Olsen at least tries to put some color analysis into the game.
Yep.
The key word there being, well, I guess both words are critical. You want to sort of illuminate what the hell is going on out there.
Olsen tries, and I appreciate Olsen. I think we had him on. I've seen him do a lot of media. So maybe I've already liked him, but I had no dislike for Aikman. He just
no. Fine. Joe Buck has been a professional announcer. Obviously, I don't know. Does he make a bunch of horrendous John Sterling-like mistakes? No. Seems very competent. There are other components of the job of being a pro, because obviously you're trying to keep things together that sometimes can go into helter-skelter mode. Even, I would imagine, at the highest professional levels, stuff craps out, right? And you're there. You're supposed to, make the presentation as if everything was fine.
Yes.
As somebody is screaming in your, get fucking camera 2 rolling! Whenever they would cross, the IFB lines, they call them. You got this little earpiece. It's called an IFB. And every now and then you would get the technical directives instead of the director talking very calmly to the talent. Okay, Jeff, commercial break number 2. Right? But meanwhile, to the technical crew, it literally is like, going to a Manson family reunion or something.
Oh, yeah. I've seen you losing on each other. Like,
this. There's a tendency to say whatever, somebody says in your ear, right? So, when you're getting that kind of stuff, you're ready to go. Hey, look at that, man. Another fucking left hook. This was before our internet, where you could get away with such things. The FCC was very sensitive about the 7 George Carlin words that you cannot say. All right. Anyway, a dull game last night for the most part. It got a little exciting. I did have a small rooting interest in it. Unfortunately, I was on the wrong side, and I knew I was from the very beginning because I did not ever feel comfortable about the Giants winning that game. Did you? Cowboys were shredding them. It was another one of those games where even though the score was close, it ended up being a 7-point game. Giants had the ball at the end of the game. Daniel Jones ended up throwing an interception. Now, his receiver fell down on the pattern, and the ball, it was a great catch there made by Diggs. to pick the ball off. But, and he left the field. This is what you don't want to see in your quarterback. Your quarterback leaving game after game with that, bewildered look on his face. Like, what? I don't know what happened there. I mean, but it's not the mark of a franchise quarterback. Not the mark at all. Tua always has a smile on his face. I'll give him that.
Has the same look no matter what, man. I give him credit. Whether they're winning or losing. Him and McDaniel, you can't tell if they're winning or losing. I'm like, all right, good for you. Like, you expect to win and are frustrated when, like, because even when they've won, he's had negative things to say. Like, look, I could have done better here, done better there. I'm like, all right, good for him. So he's a consummate pro. Daniel Jones is not Tua. This is year 4, and it's like, it reminds me of Tannehill, where he doesn't suck, but you don't know what you have. And when you cut bait with not knowing what you have, it's year 4. Like, at some point, you got to know what you have.
It's really tough to criticize this guy because, I mean, last night he had no protection. I mean, the guy was on the scramble right the minute he got back into a drop back position. He was under a lot of pressure last night. Most of it generated by this lack of any ability to stop anybody. Just on size alone, Evan Neal. Should you not be able to, at least, distract this guy that's coming after? I don't know what the hell they were doing, whatever it was, but pretty good defensive schemes there by the Dallas Cowboys in that game. The Giants just don't offer enough offensive firepower to make you feel like they're going to be a big factor through the season, despite the euphoria over their 2-0 start, which was predicated on and based on a couple of very narrow escape victories.
Yeah.
Against not exactly world-beating teams.
Bad teams.
16-1 though. Is that a bargain on the Dolphins to win the Super Bowl? 16-1.
I think it's a little reach, but it's not horrible. I don't know. I wouldn't touch it. I don't know if they're winning a Super Bowl with this team, but I think right now they're as good as anyone right now. I think eventually the Bills and the Chiefs will be better in their conference, and I think maybe the Packers and Rams and maybe Bucks will be better in the NFC. But I think they're top 8. And I think that's a lot better than where people had them going into this year.
The other thing that really is getting very curious, I'm surprised there hasn't been any information on this beyond what we have heard from the Celtics themselves. But what the hell did this Udoka really do?
He did something.
Was he banging the owner's wife? I mean, what was he doing? I understand corporate policy. Would you think if a guy violated, a company policy like there's no... How can you tell people in a workplace that they can't have relationships with each other? I mean, people in management, I guess you can make that restriction that you can't. I mean, but how can you really do that?
Well, how can you legislate? You can do anything you want. How can you legislate it and then be shocked when it happens? Like, people around each other all the time.
Where do people find, companions and mates and people to date? At work. It's as common as, in a bar or any other social environment, is it not?
You get to know them with your guard down. It happens tons of times.
You have a thing for the secretary. Eventually, you make a move. You ask her out. She says, "But aren't you married?" You go, "Nah, it's on the rocks."
How easily you said that.
In fact, we're living together, but we don't even stay in the same room.
I hate her. She hates me. It's known.
Have you filed for divorce? Nah, not yet. I'm kind of waiting, and now, I think it's gonna eventually just take care of itself. Okay. If she buys that, then you have a relationship with somebody at work, which might be, against the grain of social protocol, but I don't know if it violates any, anything that was in the guidelines there from human resources. I don't know. I mean, but what the hell happened there, Lubie? How can it be this bad? The players don't even know. This was, the media day for a lot of basketball teams, at least the ones that get coverage in the New York Post. The Nets drama, personified. I mean, Kevin Durant finally said what it was that was bugging him, when had the hair up his ass to be traded. And it seemed very credible. I don't know. I mean, you talk about a guy that, sort of reeled in a lot of the negativity and made you feel like, oh, okay, I could buy that. The guy's discontent was over the fact that nobody in the Nets organization, was accountable for the fact that, they weren't going out there and giving it their all every night, that they should have been better than they were. And nobody would take accountability for it. They all just kept shrugging it off as if it was nothing. And they were like 0-11 during a stretch when Durant was out. And his contention was that they should have been a better team than to get annihilated just because he wasn't in the games. Now, neither was Kyrie. And James Harden, I guess, had also either been dealt or had already checked out on the organization. But okay, so you thought, all right, here's a guy that is trying to establish the old Heat culture championship mentality, and he doesn't feel it was in place there, and that's why he wanted out. If they weren't going to become accountable for all of their positions there, and all the players weren't going to get involved too. So you had that coming out, and that's the Knicks, of course, are trying to figure out how it is that they don't have Donovan Mitchell on their roster, and that he's going to be playing in Cleveland. And they can't get over that. And there's a lot of drama there, as there always is, involving any New York team. And what do we have? Where did Jimmy Butler get the dreadlocks from? That's the only thing we have.
Man, the Heat are smart.
Did he go to some Milli Vanilli costume store? I don't mean I don't want to say anything that's offensive in nature, but where the hell did this hair come from like yesterday when he didn't have dreadlocks?
I mean, he's had it for like over a month now, but
yes, okay.
For that month he had his normal short haircut, so it obviously wasn't.
Did he look like he was? Being a judge of hair types, did he look like he had the ability to grow hair that long?
Not in a week. Like it takes months. It takes months.
Why is nobody asking? This question. How the hell did this happen?
We all know. We all get it. He went and got some extensions put in. It happens. People do it. Good for you. Whatever. As long as it doesn't get in the way of his basketball, we don't care here. Because that's the thing. It's like they put basketball first. Look, to me, if you're Kevin Durant, you sound like an asshole. Like you wanted that group put together, and all of us said, "You sure?" Like you want to bring in Kyrie Irving and James Harden, and then you're shocked when it doesn't work. How are you going to play? The Nets had a strong culture with the young guys that were on the come up. All you had to do is insert a Durant and win with that. No, he wanted to do the LeBron and throw it all out, get big names, and look what it's done for both the Lakers and the Nets. Like getting a bunch of big names to work together is not easy. That's why Phil Jackson and Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley have gotten credit, because it's not easy. Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Well, they rarely play together though, and I thought it was working to an extent.
But it was at some point you knew Harden and you knew Irving were going to be Harden. It literally a clock.
The Irving thing was exacerbated, of course, by the whole COVID-19 situation.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
So he wasn't there. It wasn't like he said, "Hey, I don't want to play," but I mean, he essentially, by not getting this vaccination, which you could say you shouldn't be able to tell anybody what they want to inject into their body. I would tend to agree with that, although I was in favor of people being vaccinated, because if it would eradicate the problem of COVID-19 or even reduce it down to where it's at now, where it's not lethal, the quicker we got to that, the better. And maybe that was a way to do it. But, considering what everybody was, the guidelines that were in place for people in various areas and NBA players who were traveling around a lot to different jurisdictions, and the fact that he wasn't going to be able to play in New York, you would have thought, all right, so what? What's the worst that can happen? And I get a call for a dame. Possible. But anyway, but that was, the reason that, a lot of the reason that didn't work. James Harden had kind of, worked his way into some kind of symmetry with these two guys, almost to everybody's surprise, because, I mean, he was distributing the ball, and he was willing to take like almost an Earl Monroe diminished role in terms of he wasn't going to win any scoring titles while he was playing with these two guys, but he might have won a championship. It's possible. Anyway, I mean, they weren't that far off in the years Durant's been there from they're like, if his toe isn't on the line, they're in like an NBA final, aren't they?
Yes,
a couple years ago. Yeah. So, or, in his conference finals, whatever.
Versus the Hawks, and they would have beaten the Hawks and been in the finals.
Yeah.
Look, the reality is, between injuries and being head cases, every year now, Harden looks good and then becomes Harden. Irving did the flat earth thing. He's done a bunch of things. Like, okay, there's no COVID this year. Let's see if Irving and Durant have symmetry for 82 games, playoffs, and a finals. I would bet so against that, because the dude, he is who he is. Like every year he finds some reason since LeBron to lose his shit. With Boston, they were happy to see him go. They literally got better after he left and got no new talent. Just lost him and got better.
No, he's been the proverbial enigma wrapped within an enigma.
Durant wanted to go there. Durant could have stayed State. He could have gone anywhere. He wanted to go play with Kyrie. So to me, that's on your grown ass man. Know what you're doing. Like, oh, no one. You were supposed to hold him accountable. Jimmy, I'm telling you right now, Jimmy Butler doesn't ask.
Yeah, you know what I like, Lubie? You're taking a much harsher stance than I am.
Durant does that. Like, he wants to be understood, and then he sounds dumber. That's my problem with
Excellent. All right, I like it. You're becoming very outspoken on the show, and people are starting to find that maybe your opinion is worthy of at least listening to, if not outright respect. Jim Sarney, our super scoop reporter here. I mean, you can have all of the Schefters, Mort to a lesser degree, Woj. We have Jim Sarney. He says Udoka and his side piece were caught on a doorbell camera. And he's asking me if I have a doorbell camera. I do have a doorbell camera. I think it's a really good thing. So, but I don't know, because he's married. He gets suspended for a year for having an affair with some. I mean, I guess if you're the Celtics, it becomes a sensitive issue here. You don't want to end up looking like Dan Snyder.
That's it. Like, other organizations have had issues like this. So a lot have put in place preemptively, don't mess around with people lower than you. And if you do, you get in trouble. The problem is, this being such a public thing, it feels like there's more to it. It feels like there's got to be more to it than just that.
Would you ever go to like an exhibition doubleheader?
Yeah, what was that?
They had a hockey doubleheader last night. The Panthers were involved in a 2-game preseason. I didn't even know they played hockey in a preseason.
I didn't know it was here.
I don't think they had any preseason game. They went to Prince Edward Island, ate a bunch of seafood, and that was it, right? They got all the muscles that they could possibly suck down. Everybody took their gout medication. They came out, played the regular season. That was it. But no, they had a doubleheader. I asked Jim about that. Of course, I figured he would know, because he was the one selling. Did I watch any of this? And the answer, of course, was no. But he said that they have so many guys on the roster, it's like a split squad game. So they ended up playing like 2 games last night, the Florida Panthers. I don't know if they won them both. Did they win a doubleheader? Should we be celebrating that? I think so. Kachuk. I think it came up big. Jim was saying he had some kind of spectacular goal. So there it is. They're on their way to the Stanley Cup. I would hope so, man. That was a bitter disappointment.
They won the first one 4-3 in OT, and they got demolished in the second one 4-0.
There you go. They were playing scrubs. None of those guys are going to be on the roster.
There you go.
They're all going to be in Saskatoon.
Exactly. It doesn't matter.
The juniors. All right, we're coming back with more. I mean, we've been schlubbering here for an hour. I had really nothing on the agenda here. No, I had more stuff here. I think Aaron Judge, what if he doesn't go by Roger Maris?
I think that would be classic. If after all this, he doesn't actually hit 61.
I'm actually more interested, believe it or not, and this will sound really stupid to a lot of people, but since the record really isn't 61, and no matter how many ways you look at it, you can't say that Bonds didn't have more, Sosa, McGuire, they both had more. And they counted. These numbers are in the record book, unless they want to delete them. And beyond that, get into a very gray and vague area, even though we know they were all in the juice. Can you really say that was it? That was the reason? And here's Bud Selig in the Hall of Fame, and he was the guy that had the look away. The complete look away pass, like he was Magic Johnson. Boom, there it goes. How did he get that to that guy on the left? He was looking all the way into the stands there, looking at Jeannie Buss. He was looking at Diane Cannon's Bazumbos, and then all of a sudden, there it is. He's dished it off into the corner, and there's another jumper going down from Wilkes. Unbelievable. I mean, it seems odd. It definitely does, seem odd to have hockey doubleheaders, does it not?
I mean, so is the hockey season
exhibition doubleheaders?
Like, I don't know. Like, when does the season start? It's like mid-October. Is that what it is? Like, it starts.
Yeah, coming up soon. I mean, we're right around the corner from all of this. Everybody talks about this as the most glorious time in sports, and I do feel like September is really kind of an exhibition season for NFL teams.
Feels like it. First
4 games. I don't know that you want to draw, too many definitive conclusions from 1 or 2 games, and we'll see what happens. Because the funny part of this Dolphin season is that everybody assumed they were going to, maybe come out of the first 4 games 1-3. The worst they could do was 3-1, and then it was cruise control until they got to a brutal, at least in appearance, schedule at the end of the year. where they take on a bunch of heavyweights, and a couple of them are on the road in cold weather situations.
Yeah, Packers,
And one
Eagles,
of which is the Bills and the Packers, right?
and the Eagles. Packers, Eagles, and Bills. They play
Okay.
that last 6-game stretch.
But what happens in the NFL is you start to believe things that you see early on, and now even if the Dolphins go to 4-0 against the Bengals, then watch they'll lose to like Detroit and Pittsburgh, and that's how it goes in this league. It really does. Anything that you believe is permanent, it's very short term in the National Football League. I mean, it can be week to week, with rare exception. I mean, one or two teams are out there. Look at the Chiefs. Wow. Just a week ago, if they hadn't played this game last week against Indianapolis and lost, you would have thought the Chiefs were probably the Super Bowl team, correct? Say they had a bye week this week and you saw the Bills lose, you would have already been giving the Lombardi to Andy Reid, wondering what he was going to eat at the Super Bowl dinner when he was on the banquet circuit. But instead, right, came back to the pack, and you don't know if they can beat the Buccaneers, which, how weird is that going to be if this hurricane...
What's going on with this? This thing's actually real deal, and it's going right at Tampa.
It's looping for Tampa, but has a very strange designation on it, where it's a Category 4, like right before it makes landfall, and then it's down to a 1, like when it hits land.
Yeah,
like right away, before impact, which would be obviously something that would be far more in favor of if it's going to hit at all, which apparently that's unavoidable. It's going to make some kind of landfall somewhere between Tampa and the Panhandle, right? Isn't that the deal?
Yeah. No, right. Before the cone was the fun squiggly cone where it was anywhere from New Orleans to Tampa. Now it feels like they've honed it in where they're at that. Oh, it's going right at Tampa. It feels like it's going right at Tampa right now, which I have a lot of family there, so I'm getting a little anxious.
Well, I mean, you don't like to see these things impact anybody. Now it isn't hitting us. So why are people putting sandbags on their eyelids? I mean, what is that all about? And the coverage, they never want to let the local media never wants to let a hurricane go, even if this thing was going to end up hitting Seattle, Washington.
They always find the South Florida connection.
Whoa, you know what? Look at what they're doing down here on Fort Lauderdale Beach. I tell you what, well, there's nobody out here now. It's like, yeah, I know there's nobody out here. I just turned the news on. It's 4:30 in the morning. What did you expect? A bunch of joggers? All right, Hialeah Park. Let me tell you about Hialeah Park real quick, and then we'll get into our second hour of the program, which we're already well into, in spite of the fact that we had no intention of schlubbering on like this endlessly, and really, in essence, saying nothing, correct? Would you say that's a fair statement?
100%. I can't remember what we said the last hour, 15 minutes.
But we said that Evan Neal sucks.
The 7th overall.
That Aikman is a waste of money, as is Joe Buck. That they could have put any two announcers in there. They could have gone into their intern program and put two guys in there, and would make about the same impact on the viewing audience. By the way, I know we say this every year, but the officiating in the NFL is highly suspect. I mean, they robbed the Giants on one play with a really bogus pick call on, who is it, Shepard? Is that number 3 on the Giants? I mean, he just arbitrarily, unfortunately, bounces into a guy as he's coming back to the ball, not looking to make a block of any kind or, go ahead and affect a pick. And they throw a flag on what would have been maybe a turning point play in the game, where the Giants had moved into field goal range. I guess this was right before the half. And, I mean, just an horrendous call. And Aikman actually said, that might have been a bad call.
On a limb.
Troy, let's get out there, man. Step it out there for that $20 million. I'm not resentful. I like the fact that announcers are making exorbitant amounts of money, because it means even at the bottom levels, that might filter down. Yeah. That nobody could possibly accept that you would do a show for $100 that they were paying Troy Aikman $2 million for. And he couldn't identify the simplest thing, like an intentional grounding, even though it happened. I mean, it wasn't like this was covered up. Like, oh my God, nobody could have seen that. This was as blatant and obvious as anything you could get. Zero comment, and they have an official standing by, like who's that, Sterator, or one of these guys, these old officials who used to blow calls when they were refereeing. Now, is it Jerry Markbright? One of these guys?
I don't know the ESPN one. I know
Red Cashin. Is he still alive? Red Cashin?
I know Fox and Pereira, and I think Sterator CBS. I don't know who ESPN uses. I know they all have one. I just don't know.
It doesn't matter. They're a waste.
Oh yeah, they never.
They don't clarify anything either.
Well, they're wrong half the time. That's my favorite.
They don't even know the rules. I mean, you're screaming at the television set. No, that's grounding. Nothing. It'd be like Harold Letterman saying, I don't know how to score that round, Jim. I tell you what, I'll leave it up to you. Nothing. Why does my Harold Letterman always sound like Susan Wallman?
Wallman. Yeah.
No, it looks like it's gone, John. Looks like it's going to be out of here. You think she just feeds Sterling bad information so he looks like a fool?
Yes, 100%.
It's gone, John. It's gone.
It's like
And Sterling's making it is high. It is fine. He uses binoculars to read with now, not even call a game. You talk about a guy that has like some kind of problem with depth perception.
I mean, he's in like his 80s. Why is he still?
He's 80 years old. I mean, how can you knock the guy? John Sterling. I think we once went out with the same girl. All right, coming back with more in a moment here. Hialeah Park. Let me tell you about what's going on there. It's fantastic. I mean, they've been paying out big jackpots since their inception there 9 years ago. I can't believe it's been over 9 years.
Crazy.
And I'm always fascinated by the way that they operate at Hialeah Park because they do such a nice job. And, you say this, it sounds like cliche. Well, they really care about the patrons there. They really care about the patrons there. They want you to have a good time. They want you to want to come back. They want you to feel good about your experience, win, lose, or draw. You can go there, play the ponies. Breeders' Cup is coming up. Make your plans to be at the Champions Simulcasting Room. That would be a great place to punch away. There's the place that's near my house here, and, I don't want to knock them. I mean, they do their best to provide you with whatever. But, it's nothing like going to Hialeah Park. It really is, except for the distance of travel, which, it's 5 minutes versus 45. But it would be worth the drive for me. I mean, believe me. If I was inclined, I want to get on 95 these days, which I don't even want to get in my car. But, yeah, I mean, Hialeah Park, a beautiful setup for those of you that, especially if you're in the Miami Lakes area or anywhere around and you're a horse player, you definitely want to head down to Hialeah Park and the Champion Simulcasting Room. It is the ultimate. I mean, it's made by horse players, for horse players, and yet at the same time, even if you're just a casual fan that drops in there only for the Derby or the big races like the Breeders' Cup and you want to put a couple of bucks on a pony, absolutely fantastic place to play and wager, and you got all kinds of great combinations there, like the Brass Rail Bar, Crossover Cafe. You can get food from any place in the Hialeah grounds, any of their restaurants, Junior's Bistro. They'll send it up there, pheasant under glass, whatever you want. They have it for you at Hialeah Park. Poker Room is extremely professionally run, and they pay all these high jackpots like the other places you look for, but they do it frequently, and they do it really with style and class, the whole presentation there in the Poker Room. And then, of course, the casino, just a dazzling place to go and have yourself a good time, get that good vibe. You get the good feeling there with the DJs they have there Friday and Saturday night. They're open till 5 a.m. on the weekends. Players card program is fantastic with their rewards. Just a very, very generous allotment of freebies and awards come your way for getting a player's card and using it at beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, we're going to come back with more. How did this happen, Lubie? That we're like 20 minutes into the second hour of the program here. We're finally taking a break.
I know Sarney wants us to talk about lacrosse. What is the other? Their fifth. He said there's five pro sports. Or is he talking about the soccer that I don't even know the name of the team?
He's all in on the MLS. He loves the MLS. He thinks, and it's possibly true. I wouldn't know because I'm not a soccer fan. But the
reality is, it's football season.
Inter Miami FC.
Yes.
Is one of the most exciting stories and look, you know what? I can embrace this. I'm not going to knock it. If you like anything, look. I love the Laver Cup. I ended up teared up when Federer. Literally, tears were rolling down my cheeks, Lubie. I mean, it
was the last match. I get it.
I like class. I like dignity in sport, and especially when it's attached to greatness at that level. And then I also like this. I like when other people. This is true of musicians. We talk about it from time to time here on the show. And I always found this to be great. Like the local musicians who might have every reason to be sort of jealous of each other. Or to say, well, you know what, that guy's band, it really sucks. You should come out and see our guys. They genuinely love each other and root for each other. And, you'll see, top-level guys like this thing I've been going to on Tuesday nights. The top-level guys willing to just stop by and play in a bar in front of, 40 or 50 people. I mean, international critically acclaimed acts.
Yeah.
And they come in there and they just enjoy playing. And they do it for the love of what they're doing. I always appreciate that. And when you're respected by your peers, that's always a nice thing, too. I mean, I think you found some of this from your days on the radio where, other guys would come over and go, oh, yeah, I really dig your show.
Yeah.
But which is nice. Or you guys do a great job. Well, whatever. Or, they're fantastic what you're doing. It's nice to get that respect. The respect that this team had for Federer and, of course, Nadal and the crowd was in on it, too. I mean, what makes a great sporting event, Lubie? When everybody's kind of in on, the level of greatness that you're witnessing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fantastic and competitive also, considering, what we're talking about, an exhibition here. I would imagine that to get this caliber of talent to come out, they might pay these people handsomely for their appearance. You think? But they had, almost every top guy. I mean, with a rare exception. I don't know that they were looking for any of the Russian players. And, it was all men. And the men have been playing just such lights out tennis that this year was maybe one of the most sensational ever. I happen to watch a lot of it. But the respect for Federer, I mean, this was worth watching. I watched it again, a couple of the matches, even though I knew the outcome. That's how good it was. So you can't knock anybody. I mean, people would say, "Well, what kind of jerk are you, Defo, to even bring this up while we're in the middle of football season?" But so I don't, I respect Sarni's diversity as a sports fan. It may be, a little out there for the mainstream guy to start talking about, junior varsity women's field hockey. On the elementary school level, but see now, and Jim's not even betting on this stuff.
Oh,
that's what I love about him.
Oh.
I mean, if you're wagering on it, that's a whole other story. Then your interest level. Look, I watched that game last night, praying that the Giants could cover a 1-point spread, knowing that I would have never picked them to win as favorites in that ball game against the Dallas Cowboys, in spite of the fact that this, and would you ever believe a Jerry Jones statement? That, well, there might be a quarterback controversy. No, you're thinking that's a bunch of bullshit. But this kid, Cooper Rush,
fine.
Well, he probably doesn't bring you the same elements, in terms of, making big plays as Dak Prescott might. He's still a very competent performance by a backup quarterback. Very, very professional job.
Well, and Dak's always hurt, so it's good. You need to have a backup that you can trust. If you can trust Cooper Rush, that's a positive. I mean, Dak's your starter, but the dude gets hurt. People talk about Tua. Dak's hurt way more than Tua. That dude's always hurt. So you definitely need a competent backup. I mean, I don't know. There's no controversy. But Jerry, he loves that. He loves the attention and all that bullshit.
Speaking of Jim Sarney, if you could set that up for us, Jim, I would gladly have David Beckham on the show.
I'm like, thank you, Jim.
Hey, see if you can get Posh to come on, too.
I'm like, I don't have a connection with David Beckham.
She might do the Lunchbox show with Mike Mayo. That's possible. That's coming back today at 12 o'clock. All right, we're coming right back with more. And there are many things to get into here on the program.
We're ready to talk Mattingly a lot. You did throw it out there, so that's good yesterday. Yeah. And I get it, there's a lot going on, but the fact that
it's a sad situation, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a sad situation overall.
Actually, he was really good to us, So
I had great respect for Don Mattingly, and still do, obviously.
Like I don't think they're bad because of him, but you and I've talked about it. At some point,
what are you going to
do? What's the point of it?
It's like they shoot horses, don't they? The famous, title. And, the truth is, with these marathon dancers, eventually you got to put somebody out of his misery. And in this case, they say it was mutual. It seems to me that never is the case. Like mutual always starts with the other side, the evil management. But like our mutual parting of the ways with 940 wins.
It wasn't mutual.
Was it mutual? Yeah, because they said you're fired, and we said fine. What are you going to do? Mattingly, though, I believe, didn't they sign him to an option for next year? So he probably had to abdicate that, and that's why it became out of mutual agreement, probably with, half of his salary paid, or maybe all of it.
We always wondered how he could be so optimistic because we thought he was full of shit. I think he actually did believe that they were turning the tide. Now that this is year 5 of this, he realized, we're not turning the tide. I'm not the guy. They're not growing. We're getting worse. Maybe it's not my fault, but I'm not helping. And he's right. It's just
this Kim Ng, I would think, and you're rooting for this whole pioneering effort with a woman in a management position of that significance. You're rooting for it to work out. I would think if you're an open-minded sports fan, you're saying, "Oh, okay, let's see how this goes."
Oh yeah,
but her moves reeked of team sabotage.
They're bad.
You would have thought that she was sent in there by the front office of the Mets to take care of the Marlins in the offseason. Because wow, I mean, and look, at the time these moves were being praised, but that did seem like a dupe job with Jorge Soler, especially
Every move's in
a
bad.
guy that just happened to pop up and have a good postseason. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to all of a sudden, be a completely different player. I brought this up before in reference to Soler. Remember a catcher named Gene Tennis was with the Joe Rudy,
Heard of him, yes.
Reggie Jackson, Oakland A's, and he became a World Series hero. But he was like a 224 hitting catcher. And so all of a sudden he became a hot commodity. And guess what? He was a 224 hitting catcher of little distinction outside of what he did in the World Series, which he happened to come up big. And the same thing with Soler. It doesn't guarantee this guy's going to be worth whatever free agent money. I know it was modest compared to some of the sums that you see, but it's still for the Marlins to spend money. It didn't work out. Yeah, right. Same thing with this other guy they brought in, who was supposed to solidify the team. He had like 215 this year also. So all of the acquisitions she made through free agency turned out to be absolute bustology 101.
And the guy that wanted to be here and that they could have gotten if they had gone a little bit more aggressive. Starling Marte has been good for the Mets.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The thing is, I want them to go.
I think they mercifully let Marte go, though.
Yeah, no, they wanted him. He wanted to be here, but they wouldn't do what he deserved. Okay, well, then you went bottom bin. And you got a guy.
Yeah, he was a good, solid player. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like that she's been aggressive and she's tried to sign players, but if they fail, then you get blamed.
Wasn't Avisail Garcia? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah. Garcia. Yes. Good job by you.
Total.
They were nice moves. We were excited by both moves, but if they fail, you get the blame. I don't care what you say.
And the young pitching never seems to solidify itself. Where you're counting on certain guys, and it looks like they're going to be excellent. I don't know. Oh. They didn't really turn out to be world beaters, all of these guys, with the exception of Alcantara. Anyway, you can't blame Mattingly, but you know what? It was time. It was enough already. Sometimes you just have to know when to say enough is enough. That's it. I'm out of here. And I think Don Mattingly probably feels very comfortable that he's not doing this anymore. Although, I mean, a genuine guy, somebody you would want representing your organization. The problem, I keep thinking back to that commercial for The Athletic, where the guy says, when you have all of those superstars out on the floor, the problem obviously has to be in the front office. Only we're doing this without any superstars on the floor.
They've gotten rid of all of them.
With the exception of Alcantara.
They had superstars, and they traded every single one.
My God. Is that like the worst organization in all of sport?
We literally talked to like...
At least it's not hostile like it was when Laurie and Sampson were around.
No, they're not bitter.
Now people don't care at all.
Man, that's the problem. We don't hate them. We just don't care.
What this was the worst Marlins season, I think. Even worse than 98. It really was. Because in 98, at least, you had just won a world championship.
Yeah, you were hoping there was some reason they did all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, we were doing the drives for this and the drives and the runs for that. I still would have at least known they were playing. I'm not going to lie to you. I forgot baseball was going on. If it wasn't for the judge shit, I would have had no idea baseball was still going on. And that's in large part due to the Marlins. Like, they have been so bad. Like, look, Alcantara's good enough where that should at least draw your interest. Like, the Jose Fernandez year, they weren't great, but he at least brought you to... No, they're so bad otherwise. It's just like...
well, when they had, Stanton, Yelich, and Ozuna...
It was fun.
Man in the outfield, they thought, wow, this is something, huh? And Real Muto also, they had.
Yes.
So, you had some linchpin type players there. I mean, Ozuna's kind of been up and down, but when he's up, he's excellent. Yelich won a couple of MVPs. And Stanton, look, probably long term for a franchise like this, you can't afford to have a guy like that on your roster at $30 million a year. But that year that he had he been able to, you're assuming that he was going to be able to do that again. When he hit, 50 some odd homers?
59?
Yeah.
I think he had 59.
59, yeah. I mean, he was right there. It was sensational. In a ballpark that's not conducive to having a lot of home runs. That place is Death Valley. And that's another thing where they made a mistake. The interesting thing is that the whole business about getting a ballpark is going to be a panacea to success. I mean, if any organization ever represents that again, especially here in this town, total bullshit. Yeah.
Well, the two organizations that use that exact line. The Pittsburgh Pirates, it's going to revitalize the area and revitalize the ball club.
Revitalize nothing. Yeah.
The Marlins.
They were briefly okay.
Yeah, the Pirates were and the Marlins were.
Yeah.
The Marlins made one playoff run in a weird-ass year, won a series, sort of, and then got pummeled by the Braves and have been worse every year since.
No, it's ugly, man. And the fact that the Braves were able to clean house there and be horrible, and the Astros also sustaining their success.
And the Rays.
And that's why, you were looking at some very fragile, philosophical ground there with the Dolphins, who hadn't proven that, they could do a strip down and actually come back from it. And, it didn't look like that was going to take shape until this year when they had their complete plan A foiled, which looked like it would have been wrought with failure. To get a 45-year-old Tom Brady in here and Sean Payton, who didn't want to coach at all, at this point. And, and forsake what ended up happening by accident, which is, they might have fallen into some genius with McDaniel
100%.
and, Tyreek Hill. So fantastic. And Jalen Waddle, as a draft pick. All right, we're coming back with more. I promise. We're coming back with more in a moment here. Trying to diversify the conversation. It always gets
there you go. That was for you, Sarney. We did 10 minutes on Marlins in the middle of the football season. For you.
You can't help but like Don Mattingly. And it's unfortunate it didn't work out. I've been hopeful in a variety of situations that they've presented to us. And yet, in your heart of hearts, you're thinking this probably isn't going to work either.
I just find it funny. We talked to 4 different baseball people that we respected. We appreciated their opinions, and they were justified in having their opinions. And we all said, what the fuck are they doing? Well, they have to. They all said the same thing. They have to do this. Did they really have to? Because all those guys have gone on to have success, and everyone they've gotten, except for Alcantara, has been a total disaster.
For the most part, yes. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that has to be the all-time record here. I was just thinking on my walk of life yesterday, I was going to do like 15 minutes open a show from now on,
Longest
and then go into a break and get into a little structure here, and then we yak for an hour and a half. Not sure if it was any special interest to anybody, but we're having a good time. I hope you guys are too. The Defo Show, it's 8:33. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Ric Flair, the world's heavyweight champion. I don't have to say a lot more about the way I feel about Ric Flair. No respect, no honor. There is no honor among thieves. He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family. That is.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo right here on The Defo Show.
That's it, man. Hard times on dusty roads. Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. Lubit's here, the Defo Show, South Florida Live. Later on today, Mike Mayo returns from his Jewish holiday vacation that he took yesterday, and he will be returning with Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. Very popular number here on South Florida Live. Well, right now it's our only other show, but nonetheless, very popular, and I believe it's because people get a vicarious thrill watching Mike Mayo shovel sandwiches
100%.
into his face.
100%.
And we're going to be doing it a couple of times this week, live editions of the Lunchbox, Thursday and Friday, as a matter of fact, as we'll be at the Even Keel Fish Shack on Thursday. We love that place. Brad's a big fan of the shows and does a tremendous job there. And it's nice, outdoor setting there right by the beach. This is what you come to South Florida for. Now, I don't know. Is Thursday going to be a washout in South Florida? Is it going to be one of those things with that slanting, driving rain as we get the remnants of Hurricane Ian, which is supposed to make landfall, I believe, what? Is it Wednesday or Thursday? Tomorrow or Thursday?
It's at Tampa Wednesday.
Wow. And let's say this, and I'm sure, I'm not admitting to anything that other people haven't also thought themselves as being sinister to even think. But let's face it, you're happy when you're not in the cone of death.
Yeah, look,
Once it moves on from your area, okay, that's the first thing. You have a big sigh of relief and a big feeling, release of anxiety. Because I mean, who really wants to go through this? Nobody. And then the impact, if it turns out to be, the impact is going to be of some significance, no matter how minor it is compared to what's originally thought. Would you agree with that, Louis? That nobody goes unscathed when one of these hurricanes makes landfall.
Well, okay, the one we had a couple years ago where they were really freaking us out about, that was supposed to be a monster, didn't make landfall because it never did anything. So that never made landfall.
It hovered like a bunch of schmutz above the atmosphere for forever.
Because it didn't do anything. Like people were stressing out about that one,
that one was dangerous, though. It loomed as a big danger.
It did,
no
and
doubt.
I put shutters, and we all were safe, and we tapped out, and we didn't work, whatever. But I don't remember doing anything. I remember we literally didn't work for 2 days, which we never did during storms.
A last-second twist of fate, I had that thing, gone with the wind, which was great.
And I'm not saying, look, South Floridians use, my dad didn't put up shutters literally the day of Andrew, and Andrew was supposed to hit us directly. And of course, it took that fabled turn. I remember that day, like people running around and my dad going, fuck it. And it was like, Dad, I think we should do something.
Because we had any number of false alarms prior to that.
Exactly.
With the panic broadcasting, and they would break out the shots of Hurricane Camille, and you're thinking that was like in 1960 something. And and they always had that one stop sign that was vibrating that they would show for a while. And you're like, oh, okay, I don't know, I'm not buying this. And then Andrew hit, and when you saw the devastation, you were overwhelmingly shocked as to what happened there. But that had been predicated by a bunch of crying wolf.
Yes, so I don't want that thing 2 years ago to stop people. And they go the other way where they load up on gas in their trucks and they take every water and every toilet paper.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that either. Like there's a middle ground where you can be safe, smart, and not greedy and selfish.
Oh, no, it's insane, man. We just got a shipment of all of that. Mustang's very good about being on top of that hurricane preparation.
Wine? Don't you guys just get shitloads of wine?
That's all we get. We got like 2 cases of wine. Just got a shipment for Amazon coming in from the Napa Valley. What else do you need, really? I mean, look, I hate the phrase "our thoughts and prayers are with these people." But, wow, I mean, you don't want anybody to suffer the consequences of getting smacked with some devastating hurricane. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. Let's hope for the best. That's all we can say. But apparently not going to affect this area. Although the local media, as we said earlier, watching the news this morning, they got like 17 guys in the streets. And the usual thing of the guy blowing in the wind, he's perpendicular to the ground, hanging onto a tree. And then you see like a fan is there and they're spraying water on him. And, they're throwing jellyfish at the guy.
It's like a shoot.
The guy's on Las Olas, right? He's going to go have his nails done right after the fight.
That is my favorite when
piece is done.
You'll see a shot. You're like, I was just there. It's fine. What are they talking?
Just rolled out of there, man. There was nobody at this gas station. What do you mean? All of a sudden, looks like the gas crisis is being revisited from the
70s.
what was that? The 70s, yeah. Remember that? Every other day, man, you got an even number license plate? Get out of line here, Charlie. What are you doing?
My parents told me about it. They have like flashbacks whenever there's a
Oh,
storm.
no, it's nuts. Yeah. Then you get there just as they ran out of gas after waiting for 4 hours as your car ran out of gas.
Yep.
Simultaneously while you're at the pump. Okay, I'll be here for the next shipment. That'll be great. All right, many things happening. You mentioned you're not a baseball fan. I still get into the baseball season,
Yes.
especially when we get to the postseason.
Yeah.
I would admit to not being as much of a fan of the regular season as I once was, unless I'm at a gambling destination where I've already lost all my money on the machines, don't feel like playing any more video poker. There's no access to any horse racing simulcasting, including the Jugheads from Mohawk, which I should give a prize away to anybody who knows what horse won the Mohawk Million over the weekend.
God. You can probably look it up. I would presume it would take not long.
I wouldn't know who was in it. I don't. I grew up on harness racing. I really did. My first experience was at Roosevelt Raceway in New York when my buddies and I decided, hey, let's try this. And I always had an interest in horse racing, though, and this is why I do believe it's possible. This is getting a little far-fetched out there, but it is possible that you might have lived before, because what is it that leads you to things that nobody else in your your family or any of your friends or acquaintances have any interest in whatsoever? And I was reading race results in the New York Herald Examiner. When we used to get the paper for current events, the first thing I turned to were the Aqueduct and Belmont results. Roosevelt Raceway, I was all over it. And I remember going back into like the second and third grade. I always had an innate, intuitive interest in horse racing and boxing. So what does that, I mean, to your psyche and to your consciousness? Why would you be interested in these things when nobody else around you even has the most remote idea what they're all about? Boxing was more popular then. Horse racing was more in the sporting limelight. It would get some coverage in the newspapers as if it was, one of the more significant sports. Unlike today, where, for a long time, if you mentioned horse racing in one of these radio shows or, now a streaming operation, people would go, hey, where is this guy? All he talks about is the money he lost at the track. I want to talk about that Dolphin offensive line. And
that's better.
You know what we've ignored today? And we spent some time on it yesterday. But, man, I mean, was that among the most deflating victories, losses, deflating losses I've seen with that Hurricane football team. That was horrible, wasn't it? It just it made you kind of feel like, whew, all those people with the rise, and all of this false hope again surrounding a program that might be light years away. And it looks more and more, you would bet it's more likely they will never contend for another national championship than it is that they would win one. What would you say the odds are far better that they never win a championship than they contend for one at any time in the very near future? The Miami Hurricanes.
I don't know what to do with them, because I was the one in the middle where, of course, Mario was a good hire, but I also said, relax, Canes fans. Like, you guys are talking a lot of shit before you even.
We didn't realize what a deep pile of, deep hole they had dug with Manny Diaz.
Well, yeah, and I've just gone through with FSU, so I was giving them the benefit of the doubt. My only issues, and I brought it up with Segredo, are things that you've seen Cristobal do his entire time as a coach, where he wants to run old school football. And I don't understand it in this era, and I don't understand it in this city. It's one thing you've said a lot, and Ken's always talked about. So Florida's not great for linemen. It's not always great for quarterbacks, but it's definitely great for skill position. So why would you want to turn back the clock? Like, don't you want to have a wide open offense?
This should be Air Coryell, my friends. No doubt about it. I mean, and that's what the whole legacy of Hurricane football in this modern era, if we're still even in the modern era. I mean, the 80s, yeah. But it was all predicated on the fact that they were doing things that other people found completely unconventional, and that was running a pro-style offense and then various variations thereof, which, they had different guys come in, and they ran it differently than Schnellenberger did, who really had kind of a classic pro-style offense, did he not? And they were always running innovative plays and use of the tight end and different things that other teams really hadn't caught on to. I mean, Notre Dame wasn't running its tight ends on fly patterns down the sidelines against, some lead-footed linebacker and, rolling them out on the outside there for a perfectly laid-in bomb by any number of quarterbacks, including Ken Dorsey. That was still some meltdown, wasn't it, yesterday?
Well, they made fun of it in the Manning cast. They made fun of it, actually.
That is great.
They went to, I guess, the Giants. Was it the Giants? One of the offensive coordinators was, the Dallas. CeeDee Lamb had an easy catch that may have
Oh, yeah.
he dropped it. And Kellen Moore was like, it's okay, bud. And Manning and Eli were like, what the hell reaction is that? And Eli's like, hey, it's better than Ken Dorsey's reaction.
What are you going to do? I mean, even the great CeeDee Lamb has had dropsies before, though.
He does. That's a problem.
CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he hasn't. They had a whole big thing about. It was kind of interesting. The legacy of the number 88 with Cowboys wide receivers, which included Drew Pearson, one of the greats of all time, a Hall of Famer. Michael Irvin, outstanding professional wide receiver and a Hall of Famer as well. And then Des Bryant, who does he also become a Hall of Famer? Des Bryant.
But he's borderline. He had a nice 5-6 year run. I mean, it's impressive to get that number. I didn't realize.
Certainly a popular figure because of the style of play that he exhibited. And now CeeDee Lamb is wearing number 88 for the Cowboys. It was kind of interesting because, you're looking at some kind of team tradition and the meaning of the number, and the guys are all solidly behind it, and they embrace CeeDee Lamb. But he's had far more of a case of the dropsies than any of the other three.
Oh, those were sure-handed dudes. That's the one thing all three of them did. They were super sure.
So, I mean, it was no surprise. I mean, he drops a ball. I mean, wide open. Did you see this play? He's absolutely wide open.
He might have gotten a touchdown because he's fast enough where he probably could have gone to the corner and gotten a touchdown.
Probably rolls in for the score there in a game where, at that time, I mean, it was just a plodding disaster. As people were saying, this is among the worst games that they've ever seen. Only maybe, exceeded in terms of boredom by the Russell Wilson-led Denver Broncos.
Hey, what's 11-10? When I turned it on, I'm like 7-5. Like, what the fuck is 7-5?
Unbelievable.
It was like the third quarter. I'm like, what?
Jimmy Garoppolo sucks, by the way.
He's not good.
I'm sorry.
He's not good.
Now, I know he really wasn't getting all of this playing time, I would imagine. He signed late. Nobody cares about the preseason anyway. But, wow, I mean, and as we were talking about, where he just misses things. I think we were talking about this with John Kangemi. And, how do you miss Deebo Samuel? Would that not be the very first thing that you would try to identify is what's going on? You talk about pre-snap reads and being able to scope this out. Tom Brady isn't missing, a defense that is about to ignore Deebo Samuel, who's standing out there on the right side and is going to run unabated, unimpeded, with impunity, however you want to put it. You can use every big word in the book, and it's him. All by himself. He raises his hand early on, and this is when Garoppolo his very first instinct should have been, where is Deebo Samuel?
Exactly.
And anybody could have lobbed his pass in there.
He's wide open.
You couldn't miss him. And instead he ends up, looking the wrong way, or even looking this guy off, and then throwing a pass into an impossible window where it went for an incompletion. And those are the kind of things that don't show up about a quarterback in a box score.
Yep.
But they're all the difference in the world. I mean, Tua seems to have some instincts, at least, going in that direction this year. Yep. Whereas Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, that was horrendous what he was doing. And you could see where he was just an impediment to their offense almost the entire evening. With people that you should be able to make something happen with, too. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, supposedly this genius, innovative offensive, guru. And, they looked very pedestrian to me in losing 11-10 to the Denver Broncos, who looked horrible. I mean, this Hackett is 2-1. How is that possible? Horrible.
Russell Wilson. It's a funny you bring up the Bissinger conversation, and people should check it out. Believe.com, BLEA.
Yeah, that's worth listening to. It really is.
We were both like, it was still early in the season. It was like 2-3 weeks ago. And he had just seen like one game. And he's like, yeah, I didn't get them giving him that money. He sucks. We're like, sucks. I never heard that with Russell Wilson. So far.
Imagine Lamar Jackson has to be feeling pretty good. I know, he's working without an agent there. But I don't know how inclined he is to be able to state his own case in sort of agent dialect or vernacular. But Wow. I mean, if Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson are worth this kind of money,
Oh no, he's getting paid.
this guy's worth double it. No?
He's getting paid. He's leading in everything. He's like the number one MVP candidate.
Yeah.
Like even in the game they lost, that no one blamed him. He did everything he could.
All right, if you're looking for a place to chill, and I don't know, I mean, Key West, I guess, might get a little taste of this. I think Key Largo might be a very safe haven here.
Yep.
From what's happening. But Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, maybe this is earlier in the week, so that'll already have passed by the time you get to the weekend. Start making your plans. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. If you're going to the Keys for any reason, especially the aftermath, the calm after the storm, always a beautiful thing. So this might be a great weekend to get down to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Watch all of the college and pro football games. They have the Remodel Sports Bar, which is absolutely a thing of beauty. But I prefer to stay outside there in the atmosphere and just suck down a couple of beers or cocktails with all of the people who are watching the games. They have a great, great setup at the Tiki Bar. And then just about everything about the place is perfect for whatever it is. However you want to chill out, you can do it at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill with great food and drink, great service, just absolutely gorgeous. You see the aerial shots of the place. It is every bit of that, and it's one of those places that exceeds anything that you saw in the so-called brochure, even the visuals that we're able to give you here about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Being on the grounds there is sensational. It's mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. You can stop at some of the classic places like Alabama Jack's and eat some overfried conch fritters. Go taste the delicacies. I don't want to put a place down because I don't believe in negative selling.
As you just did it.
That's a way of doing it without doing it, right? I don't believe in this.
But that place
But yeah, let's storm the Capitol building and overthrow the election. No, Meadows is on the phone with QAnon right now. Yeah, no, their leader. Yeah, are you in? Are you in yet? Okay, good.
You're going blow by blow.
What the hell is going on out there? I mean, it's Vince Lombardi. What the hell is going on out there?
I will say, when you're at the Big Chill, all of it just goes away. I'm not gonna lie.
It really does. All of this nonsense, you can laugh about it, right? I mean, they're sitting out there. It really is perfect place to chill out. Great, great location there. Right as you enter Key Largo, if you're coming down from Florida City or on the way back, before you get to the Mutineer or any of these other places, don't eat a sandwich at a gas station on the way out to save time. Make sure you plan a couple of hours to spend at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway in Key Largo. All right, we'll come back and wrap things up. Went by kind of rapidly for me here. Lubie, I don't know about you, but having a good time exploring a lot of things. A very interesting time all the way around, and a couple of our local teams here. See, I think the Marlins situation is just an unfortunate travesty that I wasn't overwhelmingly optimistic when Bruce Sherman bought the team. We thought it was addition by subtraction because we were getting rid of the evil Lauria and Sampson, who ran the greatest Ponzi scheme ever, sports Ponzi scheme. Ever.
Yeah.
Correct? I mean, greatest sports business deal outside of that thing with those guys that owned the St. Louis team in the ABA. They still had a piece of the NBA television rights, even though they were worthless at the time. They ended up being worth billions.
Yep.
Unbelievable. They finally got bought out on that thing. But that was the greatest sports business deal I think ever consummated. Second only to the acquisition and subsequent sale of the Marlins by Lauria and Sampson. Correct?
$100 million that wasn't theirs. They borrowed the $100 million, so they put up no money and made over $1 billion.
Yeah, aced out all of their former partners who were, sucking on hockey pucks in Montreal, trying to figure out how the hell did he end up owning a team. He had nothing. He had a Dayglow Jesus painting and, a hot girlfriend, and that was it. Lauria. Somebody said I looked like Jeffrey Lauria at one point in time. I don't think I have any resemblance there whatsoever. That was one I think whoever made this assessment, I think, whiffed on. All right, coming back to wrap things up in just a moment here. Thanks so much for tuning in today, people. The Defo Show, Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz here on South Florida Live. And back in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:54.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
We need about 20 seconds of Marv. He's supposedly considering hanging it up. You were paid a compliment from Harvey Fialkoff. He says that you, hands down, do the best Marv Albert
Goldie
of
does a good
anybody
Marv.
in South Florida. Thank us as Marv Albert. That would be great.
Well, I have only one answer to that, and it is yes. It has always been a pleasure to be at either the 7th Avenue end to the left of Ed Jockerman or the 8th Avenue end to the right of Billy Smith or Willis Reed, who may come back. You know, Defo and Lubie, Willis did come back in a heroic fashion, but once I hang it up, that will be it. Now back to Chuck and Sue.
Excellent job there as Marv Albert. Craig Minervini.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
Many very talented Craig Minervini, frequent guest on the show, and of course with Bally Sports Florida, covering both the Marlins and the Florida Panthers. I certainly hope the Panthers, are as relevant this year as they were last year. Although you would have to have at least the slightest bit of reservation, almost Mayo-esque. Speaking of Mike Mayo in the lunchbox, but that whole negativity that he was permeating throughout South Florida last year, when he's like, "Well, let's see him do something in the playoffs."
Wasn't wrong.
You'd probably have to go into whatever they do this season with that same approach. Like, does this really matter?
Oh, yeah.
It's unfortunate when you're a team that is, finally catching some attention of the fans, and they had a sensational regular season last year.
It was record-setting. It was great.
Absolutely great.
Regular seasons ever. They were amazing.
This Kachuk is going to add a lot, I believe,
I hope.
to the enjoyment of watching the team play. I think. Although I thought Huberdeau was great. I really did.
He was legit. Oh, regular season, he was, what do you mean? He was supposed to win the MVP. Now that's 2 playoffs in a row where he was horrendous. Like, he does nothing. Like, he's non-existent.
I mean, when you see things in a hockey game, which is, somewhat, it appears to be relatively undefined, doesn't it? It looks like just end-to-end chaos to a lot of fans that just tune in. Yeah. But, I mean, one of the most amazing things is the passing that goes on, and then the ability to receive a pass. I always find fascinating that, some guy will fire a puck at like 100 miles an hour, cross ice, and the guy just picks it up on his stick like it was nothing, right? I mean, try this while you're on skates sometime. While some goon is pounding your flesh into the boards. And the refs are swallowing the whistle and looking the other way, right? While 3 guys are fighting down this end of the ice. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff is going on. Not easy, but a great passer in hockey like Huberdeau was. I mean, you develop an appreciation for it if you follow a team through the course of the entire season, especially. But he was dynamite. I mean, among the best I've seen. Jonathan Huberdeau, especially in this last year with the assists. And it wasn't as if they always converted, because that was, typically one of the problems that the Panthers had, although not last year in the regular season when they either were or right there as the highest scoring team in hockey. Weren't they averaging like over 4 goals a game or something?
100%. Yep.
But, man, that was some collapse. I think the Fugazi coach had something to do with that.
My problem is this coach isn't well respected either. Like, they could have got, and I get it, your guy, now I forget his name, didn't want to coach. Like, he had been.
Well, they could have got Trotz, right?
Trotz did turn down jobs, so maybe he wasn't even an option. But Maurice, when I looked into him, it was always, a lot of people were like, "Oh, Maurice."
Negative, yeah. It's like one of those restaurants that gets just an endless stream of bad reviews. Well, Let's Eat South Florida, which was the origination for the idea of the Mike Mayo Lunchbox Show. That's coming your way at 12. A lot of fun being with you today. Tomorrow we go old school with Tony Segreto.
Yes, sir.
Tony has to be absolutely elated that he was right about the Dolphins, and we were optimistic about the Dolphins season. I could not see how they wouldn't be a better team than they were last year.
You kept saying that.
There was no way that I mean, obviously anything can happen, and you could lose your quarterback, and then the backup isn't that good. Whatever. Line play is significant no matter what. Just ask the Giants with Evan Neal. Do you think? I mean, their GM is just like eating the piece of paper with the draft slip on it. That was I didn't realize. I thought Evan Neal. I didn't realize it was Evan Neal. I just thought, who's this guy Neal that they brought in there at right tackle? And you're watching this guy getting beat on every play, like badly beaten. This was, I mean, they may as well have just been wearing a ski mask and a gun and rolled right by straight to the cash register. Guys that had no sacks on the season now have 6 for the Dallas Cowboys. One game, man. No, it really was something. And the pressure this guy was under, Daniel Jones, I give him credit for doing whatever he did in the ball game. It wasn't like he was brilliant, but nobody would have had a lot of success under those circumstances. Not even, especially not your man Tom Brady, who now has to go against Mahomes this week after losing last week. They haven't scored a lot of points. Their offense has not been overwhelming, huh? Tampa Bay. Just thinking about it for a second.
Well, I guess it's not all.
They didn't have Godwin and Evans last week.
And Julio Jones. So,
yeah.
I mean, it was sort of.
Oh yeah. Okay, all right. So there might have been a problem there. That's possible. All right, a lot of good games on tap, including Thursday. So we'll go old school with Tony tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
I think he'll finally have to admit that the Hurricanes are nowhere near the level that he thought they might be able to achieve as quickly as anticipated with the new athletic director and Mario Cristobal as coach. Right? Because wasn't his athletic director that came from the SEC supposed to be Mr. Slick?
He came from Clemson.
Oh, Clemson, yeah, Clemson.
SEC, Radakovich, and everyone's excited. I think you can be excited. You just need to temper it a little bit. Like, it's going to take time. Cristobal said it's going to take time. Like, he wants to run a system.
All incoming coaches, though, in this situation say, well, it's going to take time. It's to their advantage, huh?
Well, you have to try and calm people down. The problem is when they spent, then you can't take $8 million a year. If you want to take $8 million a year and be a top 10 paid coach, then you have to do it quicker. You can't
better achieve results quickly, yes. Well, and we'll see if that holds up with Mike Norvell, because they have, obviously, it seems like every week is a challenge except for this Boston College game, which was either an example that FSU is coming into its own as, beyond the scope of anybody's wildest imagination, or that Boston College completely sucks. Maybe a combination of both. But nonetheless, very impressive so far after that 4-0 start, and seemingly getting better with each passing game. All right, we'll see you guys later on at 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Mayo was chowing down on a bunch of stuff from Grandpa's, one of our sponsors on the show, and after being there, it was fantastic. And we're going to welcome a new sponsor to the show, Wicked Cheesesteaks, Lubie. Well, we'll be on Friday, and I think you're really going to enjoy that, man.
Oh, I've already eaten there. We love that place. Shirley,
wide variety of stuff.
I told my family we're going to be there, and they all were ordering cheesesteaks like I'm a fucking Uber Eats driver. And my wife left her. She's not even going to be here. She's going to be in New York. She's like, I better have a cheesesteak waiting for me. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh, no, you're definitely bringing something home, man. There's this guy, Brian, that owns the place. Super nice guy. Big fan of the show. And he wants to see if he can make Mayo crack finally. And just break down on the show and say, I can't eat anymore.
Well, my wife put in for a lobster roll because it's funny. They actually do a lot. They do
a lobster roll too, yeah. They got lobster mac and cheese.
They do a whole thing. We've had like that. We've been there 3 times.
Yeah.
We love that.
But, people ask on that Let's Eat South Florida too. I mean, is it cool? Is it proper etiquette or protocol to ask the server what exactly is the market price today?
Oh,
when you see something at market price.
People don't.
My question is, what market did you get this from?
That's right.
Because I want it to be off the black market. I want this stuff coming hot off a truck from Mexico with migrants and whatever else, man. They ship those guys off to Martha's Vineyard and leave the lobster right here. We'll see you guys later. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Lubie, always a great job. Old School with Tony Segreto tomorrow, and then Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge Thursday. A full-fledged Degenerate Friday coming up on Friday. So lots of stuff on tap the rest of the week. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
That was great, man. An hour and change, 2 hours and change, and really established nothing. Very proud of the efforts today on the show. Thank you guys for following along. It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to